Hello everyone, welcome back to the next video. In this video I will show you how to use route handler in NextJS with app router. So I'm using NextJS 14, but I think this should be applicable for future version of NextJS as well. So if you don't know route handlers, you can go through this particular documentation, and here if you see my UI, I'm basically I have one button. The button is client side render, but this list which you see is server side render. So I will be showing both get and post call, as well as server side rendering and client side how to call the API, because there are a lot of edge cases for that. Also for calling this, showing all this data, I am using this particular API, which is a very simple API. So let's see the code first. Okay, before that I'll quickly show you. If I click on this, so I'll just do an inspect console. Given that this is a client side render button, right, and if I do a click me, here you can see I'm getting this data from my route handler. I'm calling this on server on the client side itself, but maybe you can use proper library like HWR, or yeah, maybe you can create a server action as well. You can call a server, a server action will defeat the purpose because we are using route handlers. But yeah, it's up to you how you want to call it. But this entire list is done on the server side, so you will only get the data inside your terminal. You can't see it on the console of your browser. So let's see how to do this. So firstly, here you can see first inside your app folder you will have to create an API folder. This is very important. A lot of the time I did a mistake of creating this API folder inside the src folder. You have to create this API folder inside the app folder. Inside the API you can create multiple folders. So I have created only one folder called user, but it's up to you how many folders you want to create inside the API folder. It depends on your use case. So you can create API post, and inside that you can create route.ts, then API I don't know, profile route.ts. So here I have created API user route.ts. So there are two calls here. Just to show you, I have created this utility as well, user interface, because that's how we get the data from this particular API. So I've just created an interface for that. Again, coming back to our route.ts, I have created a get request and a post request. Now here I'm passing this request. If you don't pass this, even though I'm not using this request, I'm passing it because I want this get request to be dynamic. So if you are testing it on your dev, npm run dev, you will get proper data. But if you are not using this request and you create a build for your web app of Next.js, it will cache the data of your API call, which I don't want to do it. That's why I'm passing request over here. If you know that there will be static data, you can just remove this, but I don't want to remove this. There are other as well things like revalidation, I guess, which you can check, like revalidate after some amount of time, something like that. So you can check this particular documentation, but I want to fetch data every single time from my server. So here you can see I'm using a fetch call. I'm calling this particular API, and if I get the data, I typecast it to user array and I send it back to a React component. And for post, I will send some title from my client side, and again I'm sending the title back. So I'm not doing any, but you can do a fetch call or a database call, whatever you feel like. I'm just kept things simple. Okay, then if you see my page.tsx, here you can see I'm so this is a server component, and here you can see I have marked it as async, and I'm directly doing an API call over here. So here inside server component you have to give the base URL for your route handler. This is very important. If you don't give the base URL, your API call will not happen. So you should know the base URL of your application. Most of you will know. And here once that API call is success, I'm getting the data back, because that's how I'm sending the data. Okay, again I'm timecasting it to user array and I'm displaying it over here. Now this is a client render component called my button. So here you can see I've created this component. I'm marked it as use client, and here I'm calling this API. So here if you see, I have just created one button. Okay, I'm not really using this h1, so we can remove it. And here you can see on the click of the button I'm sending some title. So here again, now if you are calling a route handler from your client component, you don't need to pass the base URL. you can just directly call it. So that's the advantage of using client component with route handler. You don't need to pass the base URL, but for server component you need to pass the base URL. Then I'm just doing a fetch call. I'm passing the data, so the title data, and I'm getting the data back and I'm printing it to the console. So yeah, that's it. Simple introduction to route handler. Thank you for watching. Bye.